Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody today?
Tonight's episode is going to be a strange one, and it's going to be interesting. And quite frankly, it's an episode that I really never thought I'd do. It's one that people have asked for. That is true. It's one that a lot of people have asked me to do, but I always thought it was kind of ridiculous. But now it's reached the point to where some pretty notable people are talking about this thing, and so I guess I kind of have to do the episode. There's really no way to just kind of laugh it off and say, "Oh, this is complete nonsense. There's no way I'm doing this." So basically, what tonight's episode is going to be about is simulation theory, or I guess you could say living in the Matrix. Now, there's a theory out there that states that reality as we know it is not real, that we are actually living in a computer simulation like the movie The Matrix. Now, this theory is not a new theory. It's been out almost since the first movie came out, honestly. It started off as a very small thing on the fringes, and it's kind of gained momentum as time has went on. I always kind of placed it in my mind over in the wackadoo pile with the flat earthers and the people like that believe stuff that's just obviously not true. But as I said in the beginning here, it's gotten some attention, and there's some people that are pretty notable, like Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson, that have stated that it's possible. So with heavyweights like that weighing in on it, I think it's time to tackle this thing. So what I'm going to do tonight is I want to read you two articles that talk about this and how these people are saying that it's a possibility or that it could be true. And then after the articles, we will come back and we'll discuss it, and I'll give you my thoughts on it, and I will tell you about a study that's been done about this very subject matter. So, with no further ado, we're going to jump right into the articles. The first of these two articles is from WRALTechWire.com, and it's by Alan Maurer, and it was published November 17th, 2019. The headline of the article is, "Are we living in a computer simulation, a real matrix, without knowing it?" Wilmington. Are we actually living in a computer simulation, feeding us our sensory information? That was the question asked by two University of North Carolina at Wilmington professors at Cocolores Connect. Julian Keith, PhD, and Curry Gwynn, PhD, explored the possibility that we are actually in a computer-generated world, like that of the Matrix movie franchise, without even knowing it, during the 25th Cucolores Festival this weekend in Wilmington. Keith began by noting that all of us experience the world delivered to us in terms of a 3-pound package of fat, protein, and salt water, the brain, wired in a way that creates our sense of reality. Our senses are the interfaces that feed us input, yet even they have limited access to what's outside your skull. Your vision only sees a sliver, a tiny range of the electromagnetic spectrum, Keith said. You are unaware of most of it. That's not a bad thing. If you had to interact with the world in the full range of what's going on, you would be frozen, Keith said. So biology has developed a user interface that ultra simplifies what you are interacting with. That interface, your mind, is constantly manufacturing the colors and sounds we experience. It is constantly updating your model of reality and interacting with it. It is your matrix. You interact without knowing there is anything else out there. The problem with biology, Keith said, is that the basic operating system of your mind was developed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. A biological system builds things only very slowly, but cultural evolution occurs many magnitudes faster. That makes us vulnerable to technology and its algorithms. How do you hack a mind with eyeballs and ears? Show it something that grabs its attention, something colorful and bright. Give it some social reward. Nothing pays off more than attention from someone else. That in turn results in a release of dopamine, making you feel good. Heroin, crack, cocaine, or chocolate cake, or even a smile will do it. Then you'll do it again. What causes addiction is rewards that release dopamine on an intermittent variable response schedule. You don't win at the slot machine every time. You don't get likes or comments on Facebook every time you post. And you don't always see the right entertaining cat video. The guys at Amazon, Google, and Facebook take your data and are ultra sensitive to certain types of stimulation and reinforcement. What do they want? Clicks. They create a default trance state where you just stare into your devices. Curry says we may already be in the Matrix. Keith talked about the science of the mind. Curry said, I'm going to be a bit more speculative. We may be actually living in a computer simulation. I'm not the only one who says this. Elon Musk of Tesla and SpaceX has said there is a 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance we are not living in a computer simulation. The arguments Musk used for this idea derived from a paper by Nick Bostrom, a professional philosopher in the United Kingdom. He put some numbers together and suggested there is a ultra-high possibility we are living in a computer simulation, Curry said. Look at where computer games are now compared to where they were 40 years ago in the era of Pong, Curry said. Today's are much more realistic, even though we still know we're just playing a game. Where will they be 40 years from now, or 500 years from now, or 5,000 years from now, he asked. Bostrom suggested these future computer games will be so similar to reality we won't be able to tell the difference. They'll be like the Star Trek holodeck, and the characters in them may not realize they're in a simulation. It is inevitable that we will create realities indistinguishable from this reality, Bostrom said. How could we know we're in the Matrix? Glitches in the system. Deja vu. Such as in the Matrix movie when a character sees a cat crossing a doorway repeatedly. Maybe one glitch. Ghosts, ESP, coincidences may be others. The laws of physics in our universe seem peculiarly designed with a set of constants that make carbon-based life possible. Where are the edges? Curry asked. Why would anyone run such simulations? One clue may be quantum physics, where some things that seem impossible are true. An object that can be in two places at the same time. The phenomena Einstein called spooky action at a distance. Why would we or anyone run these simulations? Asked Curie. We run a ton of them all the time, he said. Supercomputers run simulations for weather predictions. We use them to better understand our environment and make changes. We use them to study human activity and ask questions such as how does population grow? What things work best? It is us running these simulations. How should we live then if we are in the Matrix? Curry asked. We should act as if our lives are exemplars of what is possible, he answered. And that is the end of this article. Now the next article we're going to look at is another one on simulation theory and what the possible outcome may be. This is from Futurism.com, and it was published August 12th, 2019, and it was written by Dan Robitsky. The title of this article is Simulation Theory May Cause the Annihilation of Our Universe. If we're all living inside a complex computer simulation, we should probably accept our fate, lest our universe get unplugged. At least that's according to Nanyang Technological University philosophy professor Preston Green, who penned a New York Times op-ed arguing that we should stop looking for evidence of simulation theory, because proving the universe is simulated would probably render the simulation useless for whoever's running it, meaning we could all get scrapped like a wayward family in The Sims. Green invokes the idea of a double-blind clinical trial, the gold standard for experimental design, when testing something like a new pharmaceutical. The way it works is that a group of people get the experimental drug and another gets a placebo, but neither the experimenters nor the participants know who got which, to ensure that no outside factors affect the study. While high-profile names in tech like Elon Musk and hacker George Hotz have both expressed a desire to experimentally test simulation theory and escape, or at least figure out what's outside the purported simulation, Doing so would be like someone in a clinical trial learning whether or not they're taking a placebo. If we invalidate whatever experiment is being conducted in our simulation, then it could cause the annihilation of our universe, writes Green. We could either get rebooted, the Good Place style, or blinked out of existence. And that is the end of that article. So those are the articles. Now there's a decent amount to unpack here, but it boils down to a couple main points. In the beginning, when they're talking about it, it seems like they're trying to say that the mind is the matrix, that essentially your brain works as a computer, therefore it's a form of the matrix. It was kind of a way to be cute about it and use the matrix theme without sounding crazy and saying we're living in a simulation. But then the second half of the article dives right into the deep end of the pool. With the second part, you have them basically saying that chances are we're living in a computer simulation. The second article, they're trying to convince you not to try to prove that we're living in a simulation, essentially. Basically what they're saying there is that if we try to prove that this is all just a simulation and not reality, that whoever is running the simulation will find out that we know, and then they will destroy the whole universe. So basically they're trying to use fear tactics to keep you from poking holes in the theory is the way I see it. But maybe that's not it. Maybe they're legitimate about what they believe in, but I just think it's nuts. But you have two guys that are saying this is possible. So is it possible? That's basically the question we have to ask ourselves. Now, first we'll look at this from a strictly scientific view. We'll leave religion out. We'll leave all that out for now. And we'll just talk about the science of it. Now, they have done research to try to figure out if this is true. And what the research has found is that it is impossible for this to be true. And the reason for that is that there's not enough particles in the known universe that are able to sustain the computing power that would be necessary for a simulation of this scale. Now, this was done by a team at Oxford. And basically what they did was they were trying to answer the question of what it would take to construct a computer simulation that would be powerful enough to exhibit the quantum many-body effects. Basically what that means, let me break that way down and simplify that because it's confusing as hell. But basically what the idea here is that the larger the simulation that you're trying to run, the more computing power you need to handle the information to run that simulation. So basically it refers to the physical problems of large amounts of interacting particles. What they were testing was an anomaly that is known as the quantum Hall effect, and they were using a technique called quantum Monte Carlo. And basically that just uses random sampling to study the complex quantum systems. This Oxford study found that it would be impossible for this theory to be true simply because the amount of information necessary for a simulation this size, there's not enough particles in the universe that are capable of holding computing power to hold all that information. Because basically to store information about a couple hundred electrons, okay, we're not talking planets, we're not talking people, we're not talking countries, we're talking literally a couple hundred electrons. The computer memory would require more atoms than are in the known universe, if that makes sense. They can actually hold the computing power. So basically, it's impossible. Like I said, this whole thing it's really complex and confusing to try to explain. But basically, the idea is it's impossible because there's not enough memory to hold all the information. That's a good way of simplifying it to where it makes sense. So scientifically, at least according to this Oxford study, can't be done. So scientifically, it's not true so far, unless somebody can prove it. From a religious standpoint, I don't even really have to get into that all that much because from a religious standpoint, no matter which religion you are, I happen to be a Christian, but if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Mormon, if you're a Jewish person, the majority of religions in the world believe that God created the universe. So the only way a simulation theory would make sense from a religious standpoint would be if God is the one running the simulation. And if this whole thing that we call life is a simulation run by God, but if it's a simulation run by God and God created it all, then it is what it is. It's reality still. So nothing has really changed. It's not, basically, what you think of when you think of this is that we're all computer characters. We're all video game characters. And that's even one of the points that they tried to make in the article, is look how complex video games are now. Look how realistic video games are now. Imagine what video games are going to be in the future. In the future, you won't be able to distinguish between reality and the game. So what they're basically saying is that we might be in a video game. We might be in a computer simulation because we can't tell the difference because it's so advanced. That's kind of where they're going with it. But the only problem with that is we're not in the future. And if we were just characters in a game with somebody else controlling us, then we would really have no free will. We wouldn't be able to do whatever we want. It reminds me of that famous line from an Arnold Schwarzenegger movies where he said, "Rubber baby bubby bumpers," or something like that. And he said, "You didn't know I was going to say that, did you?" I think it was Last Action Hero. And that kind of sums up the whole thing. If we were characters in a simulation, if we were just video game characters, we wouldn't have the ability to just do whatever we want. We would be controlled. And you can make an argument we are controlled by many different factors here on Earth. Governments control our lives, religion controls our life. There's a lot of things that model our behavior in certain fashions. But we still have free will. We can still do whatever we want. If I decide right this very moment that I want to stick my fingers in a fan, I can stick my fingers in the fan. If I decide this very moment that I want to jump off a building, I can jump off a building, thus ending the game. Can a video game character end its own game? Or does the person control it have to do it? If you're playing a video game and you're going along doing your thing, can the character just all of a sudden decide it's not going to listen to you and go jump off a building? No, it can't, because you're in control. We have free will, so that kind of cancels that out. And as I said, from a religious standpoint, all the major religions of the world will tell you that this isn't the case, that we're not computer characters, we are living creatures created by God. So scientifically, not possible. Religiously, not possible. I don't quite understand why such notable figures would sign on to such a ludicrous theory. I mean, it's a cool theory to think about. It's one of those things that's fun to talk about and fun to say, oh, well, what if this is the case? Well, what if this is the case? But literally just the smallest amount of due diligence and it falls apart. So I don't quite understand what the game here is if they're doing it from a purely academic standpoint. But I think there might be something a lot deeper at play here. I think that this has to do with way more than just a neat little theory. I think this might be a systematic effort to try to turn people away from the truth. If you can get people to believe that they're living in the Matrix, that they are living in a computer simulation, and that nothing matters because it's not real. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter how you act or how you treat people, because none of this is real. It's not reality. It's just a computer simulation. If they can do that, they can pull people away from God. They can pull people away from the truth and have them believe a lie. We've seen so many signs that we are coming closer to the end. From a religious standpoint, if you are a believer, then, and you know prophecy and you know the book of Revelations, you know that almost every single sign that needed to take place before the end times has already taken place. We're just kind of hanging out and waiting for it all to start. And this is another one of those things that might be pushing people away from God, getting the stage set for that time period. And it might not be. It might just be a silly thing. It might be that a couple people who are way too smart for their own good are just sitting around playing the what if game. And when really, really, really smart people play the what if game, it sounds like what they're saying has a lot more validity than it actually has. It sounds like they know what they're talking about because they do know what they're talking about on most things. They have a very large vocabulary. They use technical jargon that the average person is not familiar with. So it sounds, for the average person listening, like, oh my God, these guys know what they're talking about, and they're right. We're living in a matrix. When in reality, if you really break it down, that might be all they're doing is just playing the what if game. But if they're not, if there's an agenda behind it, I would say maybe it's the agenda of pulling people away from God, pulling people away from the Bible. But you see that a hell of a lot in our society, and I think that might have something to do with this whole theory. Now, I'm not saying that Elon Musk or Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'm not saying that that's their agenda, but what I am saying is I think that some of the people that are promoting this theory and talking about this theory, I think that plays into their agenda, if that makes sense. I don't know what the motivation of Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson are. I doubt very seriously that they're attacking Christians or religion of any sort. Now, I'm not saying they're believers because they're probably not. I'm not familiar with whether they are or not, but most likely they're not. But I don't think that they're outwardly attacking anybody here. I just think that they were playing the what if game, and it's kind of been grabbed onto by people that want to use this for that purpose. And I might be completely off base, but that's kind of the feeling I get from this. So what I want to do is I want to throw over to Old Boy real quick for his perspective on it, find out what he thought about the articles, what he thinks about this whole theory, and anything else really that he has to add. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. And again, this is something we've talked about doing a little bit ago, and we finally got to do it because James never really wanted to touch this one, but we're doing it. What I think of the article, we'll talk about that first. One, I mean, anything's possible, but I don't believe it. I don't care, are there known scientists? I just don't believe it. I don't believe we're living in a matrix. Sorry, guys. I think they've watched too much of the Matrix series, and I think people get, what happens is, I think, and this is and I'll get to the article in a minute. I think people, and this happens with other movies too, I think people start getting into these movies and they start believing all this stuff. And it's not impossible. Nothing's really impossible, because it is possible one day it's something similar to this, but I don't think it's now. And I think people get into these movies and they want this, they see that character, kind of like the Crow and the Joker, and people like fall in love with these characters, and some people actually think they're going to be like this. And I think that's what this is. There's a lot of people who I think are hoping this will be true, and it is true. You know what I mean? If you think you're something when you're not, some people think like it's just going to happen. Like they're going to be on, it's like being on famous. People think they're going to be famous because, they dress up like the Joker or something, and, that's not going to happen. And I'm not saying this is the same thing. What the article says is these people think that we're living in a matrix now, and they believe it. And these people are supposed to be known scientists, and they believe it. Do I believe it? No. I don't believe it one bit. I'm not saying they're crazy. I mean, I'm not into this stuff like everybody else is. This is something, it's not my expertise. Yeah, James is into the science stuff, and I've talked to him about it, and it's always interested me. The whole Matrix series interests me. I mean, the last couple weren't that good, but the first one was, I always liked that movie, and I like Keanu Reeves. He's a pretty decent actor. It was always interesting to me because it would be crazy if that actually was true, that you can get into a computer in your mind and you can go to another world. Like, basically that's what it is. And either they control you, and like James says, there is some people who, that already happens in reality. I could see that happening down the line, them trying to figure this out to use this against people. Because think about it. You don't like your life. I'll show you an example. And you get plugged in to the Matrix. So it's not like the movie. So I'm not throwing it like, please don't think we're talking just about the movie. Everybody thinks that's what it should be based off of. I could see people wanting this. Like, it would work if, like, say, like a criminal or somebody that was bad, like a murderer. You would be able to put their mind in there, and I hate to say it, but they would live that reality. So they would never really be killing anybody, but they would be in this thing forever doing whatever they want. And they would be in this alternate world. They would be still taken care of, but they would never come out of it. And people like that, I think that would work. I'm just saying what would, if it was real, what I would like to see it be done with. Not that I believe it or anything. I think it's not true, but I'm just showing you my examples where it would kind of work if you look at it that way. I don't know if you even thought about it. I'll get James' opinion on that. But if they could actually do that, that would be a good thing to do. Like, put somebody in it, and it's somebody like a murderer, or somebody's a killer or something, and they just stuck in that vegetation for life, and they're in their own little world. Now, do I think that there's people like Neo jumping around and they're doing flips in the air and there's the government chasing him? No. I mean, I think that's just like I said, that's a dream. That's a lot of these people get into this stuff, and I know somebody's going to be mad about this, and I don't care. It's just the flat Earth theory, and I don't care. If you have your own opinion, you're going to have it. Even leave it in the comments on the below. I don't care. Like I said, nothing's impossible. I just think too many people want this with a lot of things. They want to be able to fly in space, go travel in time, and I think that will happen one day. But this Matrix crap, and where you're going to put your mind and you're going to leave your body and like hooked up to a chair, and you're going to be fighting crime or fighting in another world. It may happen one day, but it's not right now. I don't think we're living in a Matrix. I know it isn't. And he's right. Most people do believe in some kind of God, or believe God made it, or if God runs the Matrix. Religious, pretty much most people don't believe in this, like James was saying earlier. I don't see any facts to back this up. I mean, people are going to say, well, it just says it in the articles, but it really doesn't. That's somebody's opinions. There's a couple people who are known now, and they're saying it might be possible. But like he was saying, there's a billion in one chance. That's a lot. That's that's crazy, because that's pretty much impossible. That's what he's basically saying. But then yet he contradicts himself. It makes no sense. So, do I think that it's possible, though, one day? Maybe. Not in this technology. I don't think we'll ever get there. I think there'll be something else that comes out of nowhere. I mean, I think people will be able to, maybe we'll be able to go back in time, or maybe we can go through the future. Maybe we can make a vaccine to live forever. You know what I mean? I don't think, I wouldn't be a great idea, because honestly, I don't know why people have this, and I hate to get over this, why have a fantasy of living forever? Because the Matrix, if you think about it, it's another way to live forever, because you can get your body doesn't live anything, but your mind gets up into a computer and it lives forever. And I think that's what, when it comes down to it, I think that's what people really want. They want to live forever, or have some kind of power, or greed or money. And it always comes down to that. It doesn't matter what it's about. It's always going to come down to that. I don't get it. I mean, I think people are scared to die. And I understand that, no one really wants to die. There's some, except there's exceptions. But I see what these people use, or it's like they're just not happy with their own life. So they want to go in another alternate, reality, kind of like virtual reality, but it's different because you're getting yourself in this computer, and you're just like, you're in there and you're getting chased around for whatever it is. We don't know what kind of Matrix this is, like a living computer. I don't, it's not it's not. I just don't believe it's happening. I totally agree with James on this one, 100%. I just think that it's a fantasy, and it may happen one day, but it's more of a computer. These computer guys is fantasy. They want to live in the matrix. They want to put their minds in the computer and live forever. And I think that's what it's really about, is living forever. And I know, James, you probably do agree with that somewhat, that that's what this whole addiction is with this living computer, the matrix thing. It's kind of wanting to live forever. And I could see that. Some people think that, if they live in their fantasy forever, say like you're fighting crime, or you're just like, just live forever. Like you like James likes to he gardens a lot and grow peaches and likes to farm. He lives in Virginia and build stuff and just do that for the rest of your life. And I mean, whatever, but it's not a reality. It's not going to happen. And I really don't think we're all going to live forever. And I don't really want to. I don't understand why people want to live 22,000 years or something. I just don't want to see it. 100 years is enough. I'm probably not going to live 100 years, guys. I'll probably live maybe 60, 70, the way my life has been. So if I'm lucky. So, and I really don't want to live after that, because I see what happens to the elder people. So I don't get it. I mean, I would like to do the Matrix. I mean, that would be kind of cool. I mean, I'm not going to say that I don't like it. I love the movie. I would love to do it like for a day or a couple of weeks or something. That'd be kind of cool, just to do it for a little bit and then go back to reality. Because I enjoy my life pretty much, and I think James does. We're pretty happy in our lives. I mean, everybody has better than improved, but I'm not really looking to live forever, or call somebody on the phone and they answer it and I like go into their dimension. I think that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I think this is all cool, and there's nothing wrong with you believing that. You're going to believe in what you're going to believe in. There's nothing wrong with these scientists' opinion. It's kind of crazy. These known ones are, and I've heard of them before, and I've heard this matrix theory before, and that's what it is. It's a theory. It's, everybody has a right to their opinions, and don't get me wrong. We're not bashing your opinion. That's just, we wanted to talk about it, and we just don't agree with it. Doesn't mean you're wrong or you're an idiot or something. It just means that that's just our opinion. Some people are going to not agree with what we think. So, everybody has a right to that opinion, and I just don't think it's real. And I mean, I just think it's something that people saw the movie, just like the Lawnmower Man thing. We could throw that part in it, because that's kind of pretty much a little bit similar. And it's just a little bit different, but he ends up being in the computer, like Tron. You want to go back in all these movies, there's a lot about it. Tron was like they were playing a video game, got stuck in the game, and guy stayed there forever and ended up living a reality different than the one he lives in. So that's what I think that's really all about. It's more of a computer boys, when I call him like Xbox boy, but it's like a computer fanboy's dream to be in the Matrix. Because I used to have this friend, he used to talk about this all the time, and he would say that, why won't we just, if people don't want to be like that, they just get hooked up into this Matrix and they never can hurt anybody again. And I see what he's saying. It's a good idea. These bad people or people who just don't want to be in this reality, and they get put in there, and they just live forever. They get fed and taken care of, but they just live forever on the Matrix. Their body does nothing, and that's pointless to me. That means you're just getting to the point where you're not even doing anything in life. You're just living in a reality, a different reality, another dimension. And that's cool if you think about it, but you're not really living your real life. You're living another life. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Pretty much, I agree with you, James. I don't really, this isn't my thing. I'm not in everything we talk about. Doesn't mean I'm an expert in. That's all I'm going to say. I read a little bit of the article, and that's my opinion on it, James.
We have spoken before on this show about the elites and about Hollywood and how they kind of let you in on what their plans are by what's in the movies. We've discussed this before. This is a good example of that. Old boy mentioned many movies, and there's many, many more, that have this overarching theme of living in a matrix or your consciousness being uploaded to a computer program and then reinserted into another body, a clone body or something like that. Now, this is where we're going to leave this simulation theory and go into something even crazier. But what I'm about to talk about is 100% real. I'm not saying it works. I'm not saying that they're capable of doing it yet. But this is the actual plan of the global elites, of those people in the cabal that run the world. They want to download their consciousness from their physical brain to a digital form. And then they want to be able to upload that consciousness into a clone body so that they can live again. This way they never have to die. They just keep putting their consciousness in body after body after body for as long as they choose. When they get tired of living on this planet in reality, then the idea is that they will create a digital utopia, a paradise, where their consciousness can be uploaded to this digital realm and they can live forever in this make-believe world of the computer. And in this world will be everything they've ever wanted. It'll be the best of everything, non-stop party. Their life will be fantastic. This is the actual plan of what they're trying to accomplish. Now, first of all, that sounds crazy. I understand that sounds crazy. But that's what they believe. Now, you have to look at it and say, well, why the hell would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. The motivation all goes down once again to religion, believe it or not. I'm not afraid to die because I am a Christian. I'm saved. So when I die, I know where I'm going. An atheist who does not believe in God, they might be more afraid to die because they might believe that once you die, that's it. There's nothing left. There's nothing. So if that's the case, then you want to live as long as you possibly can because you don't want to not exist anymore. But these people that we're talking about, these global elites, they don't fall into that category. They are not atheists. They are anti-God. That is 100% true. They absolutely hate God. They hate Christians. But they are not atheists. They 100% believe that God exists. They just don't agree with God. So from their perspective, of course they don't want to die. Because if they die, it's worse than there being nothing. They know when they die that they're doomed to hell. And nobody wants to go to hell because hell sucks. So that is their motivation for trying to extend their life here on earth as long as humanly possible so that they'll never have to face hell. Because they know they're on the wrong side. They know that they're going to lose in the end. They don't want to suffer. So this is their way of trying to extend that life for all eternity. We know from a lot of documentation that that's what they believe. If you have an opportunity to witness or to see any of their meetings that they have or any of the retreats, let's put it that way, the retreats they go on, they are heavily into demon worship. They are heavily into dark witchcraft. These people are evil people. They are not atheist at all. They do sacrifices. They do black magic. They are bad people. So the idea that there are atheists is just not the case. And I've heard that many, many times. That's kind of what a lot of people believe about these people. They just don't believe in God. That's not true. They do absolutely believe in God. They're just not on his side. They're on the opposite side. So for those people, obviously they don't want to die. That's the motivation. Now, as far as is that even possible? On that, I have my doubts, because to me, it makes no sense. If right now your consciousness is you. Now, we believe that that resides in the brain. That's what science believes. That's where your consciousness is in your mind, in your brain. If you download that, you're not actually downloading you. You're making a copy, right? If you have a file on your computer, say you have a song on your computer or a movie on your computer, and you say, okay, I want to put this song or movie on a thumb drive so that I can let my mom borrow it and she can watch it in her computer. So you put your thumb drive in your laptop and you drag it over and you download it to the thumb drive. You give it to your mother or your father or your friend, whoever, and they watch it on their computer. Okay, they can still see the movie the same as you can see the movie. But what they have is a copy of the movie. You still have the original movie on your computer. It's not like it disappeared. You still have it. That's kind of the way these things work. So if you download the consciousness from the mind, all you've really done is created a copy. So once you die, you're still dead. Because once they download your consciousness from your mind, it's not like your body is an empty shell at that point. You just have a backup of your personality. Everything you know, everything you think, up to the moment where they downloaded it, is on that drive now. But you're still in your body. You still exist. You're still a person. You still think. You still have experiences. You still do all the things you do now until the moment you die. You're still there. All that's on that disk or that drive or however they do it is a copy of that information. So the idea that you're going to put that into a clone body and live again, there's a flaw there. And I'm sure my audience that listens to my show is a very, very wise audience. A lot of you are very smart people. So I'm sure you already see where I'm going here. It is not reality to think that you're going to be in that clone body. You're still in your body. So when you die, you still die. What lives again in that clone is not you. It is a copy of you. But it's going to be its own thing. You're not, your thoughts, your feelings, you, who you are, is still in your body. You're still dead. So when you die, you will still have to face judgment. You will still go to hell. You're not going to live on in that other body. What's in that other body is a copy of you. And it's not even really consciousness, really. It's information. It's just downloaded information. So I don't even know how that would work, if you could even upload that into another clone body or not. I don't even understand how they think they're going to pull this off. To me, it makes absolutely no sense. You could put that in a computer, and you could ask it questions, and it can react to you if there's a computer program set up to enable it to do so. But to think that you're going to take that information and put it in a flesh and blood brain, and somehow, poof, you're magically going to appear inside this body, and now you're there, that's crazy. There's no way that's going to happen. It's not going to work. And even if by some miracle you could get it to work, still not you. Just a copy. It's just information. But that's the motivation behind it, and that is what they actually are planning to do, what they're trying to do. And as we've said on these shows before, the capabilities and the things that exist that they actually possess are light years beyond what is publicly known. So they might already have technology to take the copy of their consciousness and put it into a computer simulation if they want. That very well could already exist. But what I'm saying is it's not going to be them because they're still in their body after they download it. If it was truly them, once they pulled that information out of the brain or the mind or whatever, then their body would then just be an empty shell. There would be no consciousness in it. They would not be able to think or to reason or to be afraid or to laugh or do anything because they would no longer be there. But that's not the case. It's just a copy of that information. So that's my final thought on it. We're not living in a matrix. Simulation theory is garbage. And the plan to be able to swap consciousness into another body, I just don't think it's feasible. I don't think it'll work. Now, there might be some kind of technology that comes along someday that might be able to pull it off. As Old Boy said earlier, anything is possible, but I just don't buy it. It just sounds like the plot of a movie. And unfortunately, it doesn't sound like science. It sounds like science fiction. So that's my final thought on it. I'm going to throw it back over to Old Boy and get his final sum up and then his shout outs, and we'll wrap up.
Thank you, brother. And that was a good sum up because that's pretty much what I agree with. Anything's possible, but I think it's just a fantasy. And I think that a lot of people get into these fantasies. And I mean, there's a possibility, like he was talking about, Illuminati or some of these groups might be using this one day, or, you know, and it could be a possibility too. I'm not going to argue that. I just think that I think people shouldn't pay too much attention to some of these movies because I think you get into them too much. But it's great to love movies. Trust me, I love horror movies. I love science fiction. It's a great movie. And it would be great that this happened. But like James said, it will never really be you. It will be a carbon copy or a copy. And it will never fully be you. You're still copying. It's a clone. So you're not the original. Some people will say, well, it's better than the original. Somewhat it will be, but it's still not the original. So just like James said, I totally agree with him on that one. It will never be the original thing. It's like you got an original baseball card of Mickey Mantle. Well, I cloned it. Okay, it's still not the same thing. It's cloned. It's still not the original. The original is always the best. I'm sorry, majority of the time. Like with movies, there's rarely the second movie is better than the first. There's only a couple times that's happened. Majority of the time, the first movie or first comic book, that's what everybody's looking for. I mean, unless there's something special that happens, that's what everybody looks for. You know, and that's just how it goes. Other than that, I agree with James Hershey. So I want to thank everybody from ParaX Radio for listening to us. It's Thanksgiving night. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving weekend, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I love doing these kind of shows because it's something different. Again, we love doing it. We love talking about some of this stuff. It isn't always just about crypto and ghost and conspiracies. This one was really good. I enjoyed it. We've been talking about doing this for a year or so, and we finally got to do this show, and I'm glad. You guys want to check us out, or our old shows is on YouTube, James Hershey's YouTube page. Sign up and or subscribe, and you can listen to all our old shows or new shows and some of the side shows we've done, like stuff like that. If you guys are interested, there's a lot of stuff we do. We also have merchandise, so if you guys ever want to get shirts, blankets, all kinds of stuff's on there. I want to give a shout out to Sal Hernandez and Jacob Grimm from STX Media. They just made this movie, Deviant Behavior. It's out right now. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, Target, Best Buy, Amazon. You guys want to check it out. It's a good movie. We've seen it. It's really decent. We really enjoyed it. Great directors. I can't say nothing much. The guy's been on our show before, Sal and Jacob, and we hope to have them on again. But I want to give them a shout out. I'm really proud of these guys because I've known them for a while. They made another movie, and I've watched that one too. It was really good. So I just wanted to give them a shout out real quick. I want to give a happy holiday to all you guys. Even though I'm not a Christian, I want everybody to enjoy their holiday. It doesn't matter what you believe in. Enjoy. That's all I'm going to say. I love you guys. Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Hunters, and Demon Lovers. I love you. Blessed be. Have a great night. Happy Thanksgiving. And be careful out there because there's a lot of bad things going on. Just be careful when you buy stuff. Hopefully you don't get in a wreck going to get something or get hurt, or never want that to happen. Only good vibes. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, we had Sal and Jacob on a couple times over the years, and the last time we had them on was when they were finishing up Deviant Behavior. They had just wrapped and got it done, and they sent us an early copy of the movie, and we got to watch it. And the first thing I'll say is the majority of the times when we get indie horror kind of movies, right, by smaller companies or independent films, they're usually pretty damn cringy. I'm just being honest with you. They're not very good usually. And that's kind of what I was expecting when I got this movie. I like Sal, I like Jacob. They're good dudes, man. They really are. I liked them a whole bunch. But I was expecting kind of a cringy movie because that's usually what you get. I'm not saying they're always bad, but they're real low budget and sometimes they are bad. A lot of these movies what we see are pretty damn bad. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm going to get from this small company. I'm not really, really familiar with them. I've talked to the gentlemen, and they're nice guys, and I like them. But I wasn't super familiar when I first started talking to them, so I didn't really know what to expect. But just being that it was a smaller company, I thought, okay, this is going to suck. So then we get the movie, and of course, I'm going to do my due diligence because they're going to be on the show. I want to make sure that I've seen it and I know what I'm talking about when I speak to them. So I watch it. And it was damn good. I mean, and I have no dog in this fight. They've been on before and they will be on again. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're going to come on next time they have a project and promote, and they're welcome. We love those guys. But I'm telling you the honest truth, as I always do. I really enjoyed this movie. It was really good. And I would recommend anybody that is into horror movies to give it a watch. It's definitely worth seeing. And I think that someday down the line that STX Media, which is their company, is going to be a worldwide known company. I think that they're going to do great things in horror if they decide to stay in the genre, because they make really good films. And Deviant Behavior was a truly fun movie to watch. I really did like it and enjoy it. So everybody check that out. And just so you know, we're not getting paid to say this. This is not a ad that was bought by STX or anything like that. They're our boys. We know those guys, and they've got their movie into a bunch of stores now. So we're just giving them a shout out for it. And next time they have a movie coming out, I'm sure they'll be back on, and we'll talk to them more, and you'll get to hear from them. But as a person who saw the movie before it was released, I really liked it, and I would recommend it. So with that being said, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. Please go there and subscribe. That's where you can find all the replays of the show and a whole bunch of other stuff. The TV show we do is on there. All kinds of different news videos on paranormal topics is there. A lot of stuff. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. The link to that is in the description of the YouTube video every week. If you go to the YouTube channel and you watch the video, the replays, or you watch the TV show, or you watch any of the paranormal news videos, down in the description will be the link to the merchandise store. If you guys are looking for merch, shirts, hoodies, posters, whatever, all that stuff is there. So if you're into merch, that's where you can find it. thank you guys so much for all the support and the love that you give us. As Old Boy said, this is Thanksgiving night, and one of the things that I'm thankful for in my life is all of you. You have been a real blessing in my life. So from me personally, I'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you listening, and I love you. Until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.